Okay, it's time.
Yeah.
Let's start on time if we can. Calling our meeting to order. Sorry if I scared you. Did you I think that's how you jump? I think I need that corner of my eye. Sorry. Audio check. Testing. Hello.
Check.
Can we hear Mike?
Yep, you can hear me. Hello.
Yeah, we tested with Ann right before you got here.
Okay, good. All right, number 3, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. David and Chief Murphy have so kindly agreed to come. And I told them that they would be first on the agenda to get them to come. So I don't know if how everybody feels about this, but we have to have a vote to change the agenda. So that is my motion. If we could do them first and let them get out of here. I've told them a brief presentation, so they're not going to go on and on and on and on and on. I don't think either of these guys, I don't think are capable of that. So what do I have a second?
What agenda item are you moving?
I want to move, it was put in
Number
8, which is somehow missing from my agenda. I printed up. I guess it was an old one.
For 7.
To move them to new business, I guess, number 4. Well, let's see. I'm looking at an old agenda. I don't know how that happened. Public comment, I guess, is actually next. So it'd be right after we approve the minutes, I guess, under new business, number 6.
And I just usually put all the applicants first, just because there's usually contractors and people on the line that also, have time. So
No, I
that's
really
just
appreciate
what
that.
that's just kind of my practice, but the commission is certainly welcome to do
Well,
it.
I guess the question goes to David and Chief Murphy. First of all, my apologies for promising this. And are y'all able to wait through? How many people do we have on the line? Let me
We
just
have
ask.
each applicant, there's a person on the line for each application. And my only thought was that, or one thought was that the WUI code could become quite the conversation. So, I mean.
Well, they're just
I
going to
don't
make
know
a
what-
presentation, I think,
Okay.
is what they were asked to do.
Okay.
So, and if we need them to answer questions or whatever, maybe they'll come back. I don't know. Or if they're really patient, they might stay through till we get into the code. But so do we have contractors on the line? You're okay
I
to
am a
wait,
contract-
David? How about you?
But you,
Okay,
I'm fine.
okay. Whose little voice did I hear?
That was Pikes contract. It's on the line.
Okay, all right. All right, so we're just going to keep the agenda as is, I think is what's been decided. And so next we have, is there any public comment? You'll have a chance, contractors and applicants, to talk when your permit is being discussed. But if there's anybody else that has comments that they want to bring forth at this time, this is the moment.
I don't think we have any general public comment. No one signed up, and only people related to the agenda items are on the Zoom call. So. Oh, I'm sorry.
With the activity we're doing with the potential rezoning, I would encourage planning commission to think about maybe having a public meeting, maybe down at Sally Bush, sooner rather than later, just to go over to potential rezoning, and it can be presented as, here's what we're thinking, as draft type information.
What specific rezoning are you referring to that you're wanting them to?
We're going from several R1s from like 5, 10, and 20,000, I believe, down to single family residential. And I would actually encourage breaking it down as, here's what we have today, here's what we're going to.
Okay, we haven't fully decided all that yet, have we? Or
I think it's probably time to say, here's where we're going,
we're
you
thinking,
know, kind
okay,
of
okay.
a general thing, but that's all I had.
Thank you, Todd. Anybody else?
No other public comment that I see.
Okay, we need to approve our minutes. We have two sets of minutes from our last meeting and our previous meeting. Do we have any motions on that?
I'll move approval of both.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Nay. Okay, I believe that passes unanimously.
Anne, are you an aye on that? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, you're muted. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, and next is new business, I believe. Nate, you want to introduce this?
Yeah, so first application I have here is, whoops, I went to the wrong one. Sorry, one sec. First application I have here is for a new garage construction with a driveway as well. And the address was incorrect on the agenda itself, but correct here. It's 11155 Falls Avenue. It's actually Mike and Margaret Fry's project here. And so if you recall, I don't know when that was now, but they came to the Planning Commission to combine the parcels last year. I don't remember the exact month, but anyway, I do have the recorded documents from that approval. So basically they combined those lots to enable this project to move forward. And so it's been a lot of work going on this project. And I know their contractor, Lindsay, is on the line as well for further questions. But basically for your task is to, review the architectural and zoning application. We decided that an erosion control review and application was pertinent because the threshold, we weren't totally sure of the threshold of dirt being moved. So the code does specify over, let's see, what is it? I always forget, 300 square feet or 50 cubic yards or more requires an erosion control plan. And there's also a driveway permit that application and that I talked to Public Works about, just because of the concern with drainage and disturbing the runoff on the due to this project. So we have some pictures here of the site. Kind of hard to see where the pins are here, but essentially this is the edge of the road where the new driveway will come across. And because of the drainage there being this ditch on this side of the road, it was determined that there should be a culvert there so that that drainage continues the current flow. Another opposite view looking down the street, down below the property, I believe kind of there's a undeveloped town right of way there next to the property is where there's an actual drainage ditch or a culvert that goes then to the other side of the road. So the culvert on the driveway is included in the plans, basically using the El Paso County standard for culvert, which would be minimum of 20 feet long and 18 inches in diameter. Here is basically the summary from the applicant, 2.5 car garage, 24 by 30. The plans, everything's been paid for. The plans have been submitted to Pikes Peak Regional Building, just pending zoning approval. Here's the plot plan. And so you can see these two parcels are the ones that were combined into one. The county records don't reflect that yet, but as I said, the applicant provided me with recorded documents showing that was recorded. So that will be reflected hopefully soon in the county records.
It looks to me like he is using fire resistant materials. Correct?
Well, we're putting a metal roof on it. The exterior will be wood, but the roof is metal. And the back side of the south side of the building the foundation will come up part of the way on the back because that's the kind of serves as a retaining wall for the slope.
That shows here.
So it'll kind of look like concrete below that line. And then the rest of it will be 2x4 or 2x6 frames. I can't remember. Lindsay, we're gonna do it with 2x6s or 2x4s?
Hopefully you can hear me 2x6.
2x6, okay.
So here's basically the drainage diagram that was provided. So that's basically showing that reflecting that the drainage is really not changing that much to how the lots drain already. And this rear side will have that retaining aspect essentially built into the structure itself on the rear. No, we did not do an engineering review. I basically just talking with Public Works and just, examining the site itself and then getting this diagram this is the El Paso County, basically driveway and culvert specs. I just felt for this project, it was, pretty straightforward. So I don't really have any other information to provide. I would recommend approval of the project.
Lisa?
Just curious about the utility pole.
Which,
It looks like it's just right. Is that a utility pole? I just saw it in the picture.
sorry.
Go back to the pictures. Yeah, there is a utility pole.
It'll be on the other side of the driveway.
Yeah.
Okay.
That green,
Not
yeah,
that,
little
that other
green
thing beside it.
Isn't used anymore. The driveway is going to be the left side of that.
Right. And then that's a utility pole, the wood thing isn't it beside it?
Yeah, that is. a
Okay.
utility pole.
Okay.
It's electric. So the driveway will be to the left of that green thing. It'll go back. And depending on how many boulders we find when we start digging, it'll set in there, but have plenty of, it'll be at least 15 back from the road, somewhere around 20 to 25 from the east border. And it'll be more than 15 from the west border.
Any other questions? Anne? Anne, do you have any questions?
No, I've seen it, so it looks all right to me. I've visited them too, so.
So you said you didn't do an engineering per code. Should there have been one, or how was that decision made? Just curious.
I don't know that it's required. I think there's for more for projects that are more, I guess, disturbing, or I don't know what the threshold has to be. Their fees say that there's the potential of the applicant having to pay for a engineering review, but in this case, I just, with the slope, not really, the overall slope of the lots not changing drastically due to the development, I didn't see a need to do that.
Okay, just want to understand better. So I guess to avoid accusations of bias, we have to have you excused.
So yeah, if there's any further discussion, and then obviously Mike would recuse himself from the vote, so.
All right, are we ready for a motion?
Yes,
I move to approve.
a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. I believe it passes.
All right, thank you, and thank you, Lindsay, for being here, and we can get those plans stamped on the Pikes Peak Regional site. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And you said we do not have to take this to the Board of Trustees. This is the final approval.
Correct.
Okay. Lindsay, did you hear that? She's gone.
Yes. Thank you, Nate, for all your help.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, Nate.
All right, so the next one is a little more straightforward. Applicants Sherry and Scott Hopper are on the line as well. Requesting the consideration for a new covered deck construction at 10855 Ute Pass Avenue. The application has been paid for. However, the plans have not yet been submitted to Pikes Peak Regional. So that would be a contingency that I would recommend if approved. The setbacks, I don't really have. Here's the site right here. So it's that that lot that has kind of the cabin that it's been run down vacant for a long time, and they're currently refurbishing it and getting it back up to par. So it's a good project. The site plan here shows the setbacks based on located property pin in the northeast corner there. And as you can see, the deck is fairly minimal and basically doesn't go outside the building envelope, and it's well back from the property lines based on this drawing. So I don't have any concerns with this project as is, and I would recommend approval contingent on the applicants submitting to Pikes Peak Regional and going through the process with that.
Okay, do we have any questions? Are you planning to use fire resistant materials? Is my question.
Scott and Sherry, can you hear that question?
Was the question?
Are you planning to use fire resistant materials?
Yes, the material that we'll use is a pressure treated material along with a fire retardant that's applicated to that. If required by the city, we could use a Trex decking or composite material. We were hopeful that we'd be able to use a pressure treated material that was fire retardant.
At this point in time, the way our current codes are written, you are able to do that. We just always encourage fire resistant, at least. And, you know, whatever you can do to resist fire. I don't have any other more questions. Do you? Anne, any questions?
No, it looks nice.
Scott, are you guys preparing to submit plans to the Pikes Peak Regional? I sent you that link that via
Mhm.
email that shows kind of the process there.
Yeah, we have our architect completing the last drawings of as long as we're approved by the city of Grand Mountain Falls. We'd like to move forward as soon as possible.
Okay. So yeah, so once the town approves, then basically I just wait for the submittal to show up on Pikes Peak Regional on my dashboard, and then I can sign off on it whenever it's presented there.
Okay, so the motion I'd like to make is that we approve this with the contingency that the plans are submitted to Pikes Peak Regional. Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Nay. The motion passes.
All right. Thanks, Scott, for being online.
you.
and
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, can we have our agenda back up? Okay, we've got our Dan Batten was asked to come. He's fighting a fire in California. So Chief Murphy was good enough to come, and I'd like to give him the floor.
Okay. I'll stand here.
I'll just explain that Chief Murphy just realized today that he was able to be here. And I really appreciate it.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can move that closer to you or whatever you want to do there.
So I was asked, and my name is David Douglas. I am the chairman of the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee of Green Mountain Falls. Of course, fire mitigation is the primary concern of the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee. And as most of you know, when we talk about fire mitigation, immediately everybody thinks about cutting trees. And I think our thoughts turn immediately to what we call landscape size projects, which means usually municipal, state, federal owned land that is, is being remediated through government grants. But the other element of fire mitigation that I think is not, we don't focus on as much, but is just as important, is private land ownership. We tend to think about the forest and the dead trees and the undergrowth, but the individual private property with all of the structures, with the care that's taken, is equally important to an effective fire mitigation effort. So that's where the WUI code comes in. It's the Wild Land Urban Interface. And there are many, many codes. The WUI code has been adopted by many communities across the United States. Colorado's even, as a state, adopted the WUI code, the international WUI code, without revision. There's plenty of opportunity for us to Green Mountain Falls to utilize those resources which are already available to help on planning. A couple of things that I wanted to say, because the planning committee of Green Mountain Falls has limited jurisdiction. Planning committee, as I understand it, has no jurisdiction over a new construction. That is left to the Pikes Peak Regional Building Committee. And so what we're left with here, and I think what you invited me to here today to address, was the land use code that's being worked on at this point by the planning committee. And so when you look at the WUI code, it addresses several things, some of which are not really under the purview of the Green Mountain Falls Planning Committee. But just to bullet point these, structure density and location is one of the areas of the WUI code. Building material and construction, vegetation management, emergency vehicle access, water supply, and fire protection. Since Green Mountain Falls really has nothing to do with building materials and construction, other than decks, that really leaves your land use code consideration to structure density and location. So when you're thinking about new building within the land use code that Green Mountain Falls develops, you can, under the WUI code, determine what the density will be. That also includes setbacks, what the setback will be, distance between structures and distance between other features such as slopes. As I understand it, again, we do not approve roofs, coverings, eaves, vents, gutters, exterior walls, windows, any of those sort of things. But what we can address is vegetation management on private property. Tree thinning, spacing, limbing, and trimming, removal of any vegetation growing under tree canopies, typically referred to as ladder fuels, surface vegetation removal and brush clearance, vegetation conversion, fuel modifications, and landscaping. So all of those things you can write into the land use codes of what is required of private property owners in terms of vegetation management. This is a very key element of fire mitigation and control and defense. We talk very often about, limbing up trees and ladder fuels, getting rid of ladder fuels. The town of Green Mountain Falls currently has a nuisance tree ordinance that is currently, we're trying to strengthen it so that it improves its enforceability. But I believe that if the planning committee addresses vegetation management in land use code, it will strengthen the ability of Green Mountain Falls enforcement of the ordinances, because now you have the land use code as well as the town ordinance. So those are, to me, the area where you should focus, or where I would advise you to focus. And under the Planning for Hazards Land Use Solutions for Colorado pamphlet, it states that up until this point, emergency management and public safety personnel have been the primary drivers of WUI code enforcement. But that is changing, and planning departments are becoming increasingly involved in the process. These plans, which make the projects that identified eligible for a variety of grant funds related to hazard mitigation, are discussed in further detail in this guide to the planning tool profile for the local hazard mitigation plan. So what the point is here, with a good land use code hazard mitigation plan, it increases our ability to attract grant funding for our town to do additional work, which is always something that we are very keenly interested in. So I think that the fact that the land use code is currently being undertaken, this is an excellent opportunity to incorporate the WUI code. Now, as Chair Matthews asked tonight on 2 separate occasions, were the materials that were being used fire resistant? My understanding is the planning committee does approve decks. And the purpose of adopting a portion of, all of, whatever land use code does should be considered a long-term investment. In other words, we're not trying, or you should not be attempting to force current homeowners and private property owners to conform immediately. This should be something that is implemented over time as new projects come up. So, I don't think that we want to create a burden for private property owners day one, but we do want an implementation that assures that our community is growing ever closer to a compliant community when it comes to fire hazard mitigation and compliance with the wildland urban interface. Questions? Yes, sir, Lisa.
So is there a way that through grants or other things that we can help people afford to put trucks or whatever it is? Is there anything, like solar panels and all the things that the utility companies is encouraging us to do, some sort of that's tax breaks or rebate or something? Do you know of anything that the state has or
A state program that
or
helps,
county or any kind of programs like that?
a state program that helps private property owners implement WUI code for
The fire resistant materials, if we require that, is there anything that could help, people pay for it?
I am not aware of any, but that doesn't mean there is not. I think people should research funds that are available through the state, because that's typically where you would find those.
And that might be something that we research, to try to help people. I mean, to get buy-in and things like that, rather than, oh, go check it out, or anyway, it's just a thought. And then I want to ask, I'm looking through this 428 page document, and it looks pretty good that you sent us, but, and where is this from? I know it's that Colorado,
I'm
but
not sure which
I've got
link
the,
that
well,
you're
I have the
referring to.
planning for hazards,
Is it the state of Colorado adopted
the
plan?
2020 January.
That is the International Wildland Urban Interface, IWUI.
This thing.
Oh, the hazards.
For planning,
Yes, that is.
for planning for hazards, land use solutions. It sounds like it's got our name on it.
Yeah. Let me look at
It looks very helpful, but it's long.
I'm not sure what the source of that document is. This is something that
It says DOLA on it, but I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. It funded this guide and accompanying website. Oh, there's a website, planning for hazards. It might be easier to use. But thank you for sharing it.
How many, are we, if we adopt the WUI code and incorporate it into ours, do we have to adopt the whole thing, or is there a section that we take out and put in ours?
I think that the first thing that, you're already limited in terms of what you can adopt. The Pikes Peak Regional Building Commission is the final say on what building code is. And if PPRBD has not adopted the WUI code as part of their approval process, and we don't, as a town, have the ability to do the engineering or the oversight of plans, I guess what I'm saying is it's pointless to adopt that portion of the WUI code as it relates to construction of buildings.
Yeah.
Because you can't enforce it. It's not under the purview of the town. The town doesn't have the resources to do it. I think what you should do is look at the WUI code elements that make sense for us to adopt, which would be vegetation management as one. And then to the extent that WUI code applies to DACs, which is another area that we, as a town, have oversight over and approval. Those would be the areas I think that would make most sense. So I would adopt those portions of WUI that make most sense for us rather than the whole thing.
Answers.
Chief Murphy, do you have any comments you'd like to add to that?
I don't, Mr. Douglas covered everything, you know, that you and I have discussed. So, you guys keep saying the WUI code, and there's several out there. So you kind of have to incorporate what works for you into yours. And obviously the fire district is behind anything you guys come up with that's going to help us in the long run. But as Dave said, the big thing for us is the vegetation management. You're working on your new land use code, and I'm assuming I don't know what you would call it for want of a better word, trashy and junky yards are what really hinders us. We have a hard time with some of these houses, not just for structure fires, but for some of our rescues. The codes aren't being enforced, and they're very difficult to access some of these residents for us right now to do rescues for patients. So that doesn't have anything to do with WUI stuff, but while you're writing the land use codes and getting some teeth into your ordinances, the WUI stuff should be written in now so that you don't have to the next group of people don't have to try to fight it in there. Get it done now while you're doing it. So we would obviously support anything you guys come up with. Yes, sir.
What kind of things cause you problem for access?
Just people piling stuff up around their yards. If we have to ladder the side of a house to get up to a roof to do a chimney fire, we run into broken down appliances and firewood and just junk. People that pile around their houses. It's just one of the challenges we face up here with the way our lots are laid out. If you get anywhere from Pass Avenue, if you go north or south, everything is like this, and those are the challenges we face. So if those issues are taken care of, that just makes our job easier. If we do have to do structure protection again, like we did during the last fire, if people already have those elements in place for us, we don't have time to mitigate however many houses are in Green Mountain Falls right now. Plus we cover Cascade and Chipeta Park all the way to Cristola. So without the manpower to do those, it's called structure prep. If people already do it, or if they've already had their houses done, then that just saves us time. If there are little things that we can do to help out, but we had just firewood that we had to throw out from underneath people's decks, all kinds of stuff that shouldn't have been there, and people just don't realize it. They don't think about it. But when that happens, we just don't have the manpower to go through and do each and every house. So some of them are going to have to, they'll just go up. There's nothing we can do about it. So we just try to get the word out to people to do it yourself, so we don't have to, because we may not get to it.
Do you have a list of things like that that you could provide us?
There's actually we've adopted Firewise. So if you go on it's NFPA's website and look at the Firewise stuff, they have printable pamphlets. I don't print them out because they do them in 42 different colors. So it's really hard to reproduce it with a $30 Brother printer. So I just have people go on to the Firewise site and look at their information, and it's all it all pertains to our area as far as vegetation removal, keeping your structure clear. We recommend hardening your house, which a lot of people don't know how to do that, and it's all laid out for you in there. A lot of folks can't do it themselves, and they can hire a contractor or a handyman to do it for them. The building material thing, we were talking about the cost of composite to regular wood. Going in the composite is going to be more expensive, but through down the in the long run, you won't have to keep fire treating it, which costs money. The rot on regular wood, even pressure treated wood. My first front porch was pressure treated, and it lasted about 20 years. So the pushback on using the composite materials for decks is really a wash. If you pay a little more upfront, but then the maintenance is nothing. I have a composite deck now, and I rinse it off with my garden hose and forget about it. So that element we would really like to see added. But the Firewise information is your best bet.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, as we're going through these codes, we don't necessarily think about it from your point of view of fighting fires because none of us have ever done it. So we really appreciate you taking time. Is there anything else you can think of that is really important that you want to be sure that we?
We'd really like to see, and it's not going to be part of the land use, but if people have a fire hydrant on their lot, it would be nice to not have decorative stuff piled around it. I know people, they want to make their yards nice, but when we connect a hose to one of those hydrants, we need, once you charge that hose, it'll grow 20 feet long. So we need a lot of clear space and a lot of distance around them. And the town has a couple that are buried with dirt, but I know you guys are busy, so. Boulder Street.
Noted, thank you.
So are those maintained by the homeowner where it is or?
The
or
hydrants
Yeah,
are.
the hydrants. Who's supposed to maintain those, I guess?
It's okay, I give up. Who?
Okay.
Actually, the city of Colorado Springs owns the fire
Probably.
hydrants up
Okay.
there. They don't come up and maintain
Right.
them. I try to weed whack them as much as I can, but like summers like this, I'll clear a hydrant on this end of town. By the time I get to Chipeta Park, these are already
Okay.
grown. So
Mhm.
we just kind of ask people, if you've got one in front of your house, that's the one we're going to hit to put your house out. So,
Right.
taking 10 minutes to keep it clear
Okay.
would be to your advantage.
Well, I know most cities you can't park within a certain area of the fire hydrant, and surely we could put something in that
That's a
you
good
need to keep it
point.
clear within a certain area.
Yeah.
That would really be helpful for us. Because folks take them for granted. I've lived in my house since 1986, and I've never seen my hydrant get used, but when it does need to be, I sure, I want it to work, and I want it buried. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Who tests those fire hydrants? Do y'all?
Colorado Springs Utilities
Okay,
they hire a contractor,
to come and do
and
it.
he'll come up. He doesn't test the whole system. They do it on a yearly basis because it takes so long. And with our system, if your water's ever turned brown at your house, they're either testing the fire hydrants or we've hit a hydrant.
Right.
So
Thank
yeah,
you.
Got it. Are you saying you want us to cut the grass around them? Keep the grass?
the weeds.
Weeds?
Yeah, grass doesn't bother us. It's just sometimes some of the areas are not it's not like a groomed area. They're kind of a rough area, and the weeds grow. And then in the wintertime, the snow kind of hinders us. We do have flags on some of them,
Yeah.
but if we find the flag, we still have to dig the hydrant out to connect to it. So that takes a lot of time.
Colorado Springs Utilities actually has an online GIS where you can view all the hydrants and all the infrastructure in town. So it's kind of a handy.
It's a really
Tool.
robust system. We have the hydrants on Chipeta Park Road and Ute Pass Avenue. Some of them are over 200 PSI and 1,500 gallons a minute. So
Wow.
we're really fortunate to have those kind of hydrants. But as you go higher in the district, then the pressure drops. So if you see the blacktop hydrants, those are 50 GPM or less. So they're a challenge to use.
So you mean the ones that are painted black? I have seen the black ones.
Yeah.
So that indicates the.
So there's a color code blue top with a blue front cap, which is called the steamer cap. Those are the high flow 1,500 GPM.
Okay.
And then we have orange, green, and black. So again, I don't remember the exact flows, but the
Okay.
blue is really good, green's okay, orange is in, black is just, you're better off bringing your
Good
own
luck.
water.
And that's just the cap part, not because I've seen a whole hydrant.
The
black.
top.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
the little top thing.
Yeah, and
okay.
some of the hydrants have been painted and some of them have been changed, so they'll have a red top, we think, but there's green paint under it. So we don't,
Hmm.
you know, it's like, oh, that's only gonna be 250 gallons a minute. I'm gonna pass that up. We just hit them, but we can
Yeah.
have an idea. We like to see blue on blue with blue, and then we know we're gonna have a good day.
Okay, we really appreciate the two of you
Certainly.
coming in. I hope you can continue maybe to be a resource for us if we
Certainly.
get stuck or if we get down into it. And we're hoping to get to it this evening some. So if y'all want to stay, fine. If you don't, fine. I just so appreciate you're both coming. And
I have a question for Chief Murphy. You and Becky were talking and I just overheard some of the conversation, but I think you were talking about the hillside overlay down in Colorado Springs where the areas, they use the hillside overlay, I think, to implement the WUI code or
Right.
parts of it.
Yep.
In the fringe areas, the hillside, the truly hillside areas like we are, do you know if that includes building specifications or is it just zoning issues like we have?
I do not. We did not receive the information that was supposed to
Yeah.
be sent to us today. It didn't make it. So
Because I've just been confused. I think I've gotten a little bit of mixed messages from Pikes Peak Regional because this email says here, basically the WUI stuff is an issue with zoning. But I've also received information from them saying if we wanted to change our building, add to our building specification in terms of materials or things like that, I think we could do it because Pikes Peak Regional covers the entire El Paso and Teller County area. So if there are areas that have WUI code as part of building rules, then they are enforcing that.
right.
So I think there would be a way to do that. It would take a lot of coordination with Pikes Peak Regional and a lot of time to figure that
Yeah,
out.
and I sent the chairperson a link to Colorado Springs Fires
Mhm.
WUI code. And it's not that long. It's pretty cut and dried. So, and it covers building materials.
I think I sent it
that
out
are
to
required.
everybody, but if not, I'll do it.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
That's a Pikes Peak Regional. That's not it, right?
No, he's
We
talking
got
about
a
the Colorado
ton of,
Springs.
yeah, we got it.
Yeah, we have a lot of
Okay.
links we need to wait
Yeah,
through.
it's a rabbit hole that you can get lost in really quick. So some of them are, yes.
That's the
it.
one you sent. I mean,
Yep.
you just told us about, which looks
Right.
really good. Yeah,
Yep.
okay. All right.
I know that Chief Murphy did some research. It looks like Nate's been doing some research. I really appreciate both of you for looking at that. It sounds like from what you're saying, Nate, and from the answers you've understood, that we would have the opportunity of maybe talking about materials and within some aspect.
I think it's possible. I think we would need to schedule a work session or invite some Pikes Peak Regional person, the right person up here to talk with the commission and see what our options are before finalizing anything.
Yes.
One, you asked a question about resources that are available in purpose of fire lines.
I can't hear what he's saying.
Just to add to resource availability, the Colorado State Forestry Service has some great information that could help guide the planning committee. And those are on a resource document that was put together by the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee with all the links.
Right. There's, yes, I've seen that and it's been posted, I think, on the website, Nate.
Our website has a ton of information on it.
Okay.
Links to information, I should say. So
Lisa?
It just sounds like public education is huge. And I don't know if you guys have thought about maybe having a fire meeting every month to, I mean, to keep the conversation going. I don't know. I lived in the Broadmoor Bluffs area and, it's the next place in Colorado Springs to burn. And and we had meetings frequently and, not everybody could attend a certain meeting, but there was a lot of talk. And as Chief Murphy said, it was very clear that if you had, still had wood shake, that, or whatever, or wood siding, or they were going to drive right past our house and save another house. So everybody knew. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about. We really need to enforce or impress upon people that, you're not going to be able to help them. So.
All right. We need to move through our agenda. Guys, thank you very, very much. I so appreciate it.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here and waiting on us. All right. So next on our agenda, I think, is adding another member who has applied.
Correct.
And so if you put the application up there, good, thank you. Has everybody had a chance to look at the application? I believe the applicant's here this evening. Is there another page to that?
No, that's it.
What's up?
I was intending to print out the interview questions, especially if we had more than one applicant, but I can still do that if you want, or you can ask your own questions if you want, or it's the commission's decision on how you want to proceed, I guess, at this point.
Okay,
But
it's 7:23. I think we could probably take till 7:30 to maybe each of us ask questions. Rocco, if you'd be so kind to answer questions from the commission.
Sure.
Mike, you want to go first?
Well, I know Rocco pretty well, so probably know the answer to some of these questions, but what interests you most about the planning commission?
So the question is what's most interesting with the planning commission? It's not land use code. That's kind of dry. Talking with Mayor Dixon, probably the most interesting thing to come up in the time that I've been involved with the town is his thought about having the planning commission actually be involved with planning and synchronizing. And I think we just had this great discussion about the WUI, and that's a prime example where you have overlapping committees and expertise to try to influence and solve an issue. And so that is what excites me, is involvement in synchronizing and coordinating and moving things along maybe a little more efficiently, or having the right people who are already volunteers at the table when we discuss this to kind of move the process along and make the town better and safer.
Okay. Lisa, do you have a question?
What do you think makes the community of Green Mountain Falls unique? And how would you visualize best preserving its uniqueness?
Well, the thing that appealed most to me, and I know probably some of the people in this room, is the access to the outdoors. Sure, we have heritage and tradition, but we also enjoy 12+ miles of hiking trails right outside our front doors. And I think many of us, that appealed to us. I know there's been challenges with that since the pandemic and having unprecedented numbers of hikers coming up, but it's been a great opportunity as well as a challenge. I know the business owners appreciate it. I think the vast majority in our town appreciates the uniqueness of being able to just walk out our doors, enjoy scenery and wildlife.
Thank you.
We have 4 minutes left. Ann, do you have a question?
Yes, I just had 2 questions that I was going to ask anybody, and they're just very simple. Are you a resident and do you vote here? That's it.
Did you understand?
Yeah. Yes, Ann, I'm a full-time town resident and I do vote here when we have elections.
Well, that's great. And because I think it's wonderful that you've applied, you have a lot of experience, and the military go-to attitude, I think that will be very helpful.
Thank you, Ann. I'll finish up with my question, which is, can you talk to us a little bit about your experience and knowledge around what the Planning Commission does?
So when I started the Planning Commission, the first 3-year stint, a neighbor told me coming on, don't take anything personally. And I didn't quite know what that meant until about 2 summers ago. So that can be difficult to do. But what does the Planning Commission do? We basically interpret the land use code when a petitioner comes before the town with a development proposal. And so it's using the knowledge of the code, the local knowledge, and some experience in interpreting that in that quasi judicial capacity to make a decision that can be most beneficial for the town, but also is the most fair for the petitioner.
And obviously you have experience actually serving on the Planning Commission. So,
Right.
All right. Well, we appreciate your willingness to apply for this position. And thank you for taking time with us tonight, Rocco. Do we excuse him to have the vote, or can he stay, or how does that work? Okay. All right. Do I have any motions on this application?
I move to
we
approve.
Okay, you got 2 of them.
Okay. It sounds like we have
I second it.
Mike's second and Ann's motion to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Nay. Passes unanimously. Now, this is our motion to send before the BOT with our recommendation that Rocco be added to the Planning Commission. So that is what has been voted on tonight. And then we have the BOT to approve that
Okay.
or not.
When does the BOT meet next?
Okay, so once we have that decision, then we'll know if we have a new member. All right.
Good.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for participating with your questions. And so appreciate you, Rocco, for being willing to serve the town in all the ways that you do. All right. Next on our agenda, which I've been trying to keep here on my phone so I can find it. Thank you. Oh, goody. We get to go into our code rewrite. Is that it?
Yep.
And if you want to put up on the screen where we last left off.
Well, first I put A and B up there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We received no responses to the RFQ. So we are.
Nobody wants to advise us.
Uh-oh.
I talked to one of the consultants who called and had a lot of good questions, raised a lot of good points. I think part of it is that, well, he had some questions basically on the rezoning of the entire town, which to him really complicated the process and extended the timeline. He referenced a project they worked on with Monument, which was basically I think all in all, it was at least, a year, close to 2 years, $200,000 rezoning the whole town, all the hearings that it involved and all this stuff, GIS coordination, mapping. Because basically when you are forcing or suggesting a whole entire new definition of zone districts, that's a legislative zoning process as opposed to someone who wants to develop something and is coming to the town and requesting a zone change so that, they can do something. So it's a different situation and it impacts obviously the whole town. So one question he had was, would the planning commission and or the board consider leaving the zone districts as they are in place and working with those and making changes within those? Now, that's not necessarily, we've received more information from our own town attorney since then, saying that it doesn't have to be that long of a process as this person was saying. But nevertheless, it definitely adds a whole layer. But I think we all think it's necessary. But anyway, I guess my point to that was, I think that the deadline of December 31st was a little bit scary for them to commit to jump in midstream into this project with a lot of work to do. And maybe it was hard for them to calculate what their response would be.
Well, I want to remind the commissioners that I've been talking about how we are way behind. We got to hurry, hurry, hurry. And this has just validated that. Todd, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, supplemental information. I was on the phone with Becky and the town attorney. He didn't think it was as bad as what the consultant came back with. We just have the hearings. We just basically do the public communications. And the one thing he did say is if someone protested, then it would go from a majority vote on the board to a 2/3 majority vote on the board if someone protested. And that's hence why I was kind of encouraging to try to get out and, maybe do the public meetings down at Sally Bush where, okay, here's what we're thinking about doing for zoning.
Mike?
Yeah, why do we feel compelled to rezone?
It was, right now we have R1, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, for example. And there's different setbacks. for
You mean
each.
the residential area?
Yeah, residential.
Those different size lots?
Yeah.
Are all zoned the same?
They're all zoned R1, but depending on the lot size, which complicates things a little bit because now you gotta know your lot size for the setback. Where you're going so far is you have, say, single family residential, you have one set of setbacks. So it actually simplify.
So if we're simplifying, presumably there won't be a lot of people having an issue with that, presumably. And I don't understand, I guess, the consultant's point of view that it makes it more complicated when we're simplifying it.
Yeah, it might have been the experience with Monument, which may have been an apple orange type of scenario. They might have been having to go in and actually resurvey, and that would definitely complicate.
Yeah.
At least in my mind, if we're just going from R1, whatever, however size lot you have, to single family residential or whatever the code is.
Nate, deadline did we give these people to respond to us?
Yesterday.
That's what I thought. So we have 0 responses, even though that's the deadline we gave them.
We can send it to the town attorneys. It's just, then it gets in the question of who actually pays for it. Is it something that DOLA can actually fund? Do we fund it out of our coffers? Or is it something that's, can be funded from maybe the other grant?
So you're saying instead of using a consultant, you're saying we could go to the town attorney instead? We've already been through this process with attorneys, which has been, quite frankly, expensive and not productive. And that's what I was hoping to get with a consultant, is something less expensive and more productive. Okay, you've gotten feedback, Nate, from one consultant about his concerns, it sounds like.
Mhm.
Do you think we could get feedback from any of the others about why they didn't even apply?
Sure. Yeah, I could do that.
And maybe we can adjust this somehow and make it work?
Yeah, and just to be clear, our town attorney firm has a land use, somewhat like, well, I don't know if Nina was a land use specific attorney. I think she's kind of a jack of all trades, but our firm does have a specific to land use attorney on staff who apparently could work this, project into their schedule. And
So
just,
what does this do to our codes that we had to go out and get 3 quotes and we can't even get 1 quote and then make a decision? What happens now, code wise?
just with the purchasing process, I mean, I
Yes.
think we could reevaluate. I think we need to reevaluate the whole thing, basically. I mean, for one, I do think there's a major zone district change, and that is basically making everything that's R1 now, the way it's proposed in our draft, is going to R1 or R2. So that means any lot that's right now zoned R1 could potentially have a duplex built on it. That may raise some red flags for people. I know that there are some lots in town that already have multiple structures in R1 district. That's not ever been enforced or whatever the case is. I don't know if that's enforceable now, but it certainly is a pretty big change in the way that the residential area of town is zoned. Another clarification, DOLA did say that their grant money can be used on our own town attorney. I had an email from them a while back on that. But I think the next question, one of the next conversations that needs to happen is with DOLA, just to say, look, we know we've already asked for 2 extensions. What are the chances we could get another one? Here are the reasons why. And maybe we could then expand the budget a little bit to over that $25,000 limit.
I think
And
the
that
first
may
thing is we have to
attract-
find out what the issue is. Is it the
Right.
budget? Is
Right.
it, what is it before we start
Right.
trying to get more money?
But now that we haven't gone through the wildfire section yet, which I think we're about to do tonight.
Yep.
But
Mike?
still like 10 pages away.
I mean, I'm wondering if we're making a mountain out of a molehill here. Do we really have that many vacant lots in this town that we have to worry about what's going to get built on them? Can't we deal with
think-
that one at a time?
I think we have a lot of dilapidated structures that are going to be selling out here in the next
Well,
decade for sure. Or tax sales or, however it is, but there's definitely a lot of dilapidated structures that need to be dealt with eventually.
can't we just deal with that? I mean, we've got something in here about dilapidated structures. Can't we go say you got to tear that thing down?
Yeah, but the issue is, yes, that's a good idea, but
What can they build in? its
then what
place?
happens
Yeah.
next? Yeah.
Well,
Then it becomes essentially
And-
an empty lot.
And I think just one example of now that we're talking more about the WUI stuff, that is going to add a whole nother dimension. For example, we've talked about making it easier for people to do things, which it's been framed as having less of setbacks, but less setbacks means more density, which goes against the WUI stuff. So there's a lot of, intertwined ideas here that need to be fully fleshed out, especially if we're considering now WUI overall.
Yeah.
And what all that looks like. So
That's a really good point, Nate, that, we've gone through some stuff and said, okay, we don't want to legislate what kind of junk people have on their property. And now we learn that the junk people have on their property is a fire hazard. So, and possibly costing lives. So yeah, there's some competing interests here in the direction we want to take. And, so let's try to figure out what it is we're going to do about these RFQs, get some specific action and a date for it to happen. Does Lisa or I or somebody on this commission need to call some of these people, help you, Nate? Because I know you got a lot else to do.
sure, that'd be awesome.
Is it something you'd be willing to help with?
I could do that for a bit this week, and I already got started with that. I can talk to you, Nate, about that.
Okay.
APP, whatever it was.
Right. And I have a
And-
list of, I basically sent,
Association.
oh, sorry. Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I found all the people that I sent the request to. I've sent it to 6 different firms. I talked to, I think 4 of them before I sent it out briefly, but I have a contact list that I can send you. And then, yeah, it'd be great to just get that feedback about why, what do we need to do? What are our issues? I can talk to DOLA and just kind of get a feel for them. Now, DOLA is, funding wise, we've already spent a decent amount of that. So as far as that December 31st deadline, if we had another consultant start soon, we could essentially burn through that DOLA money for the rest of the year. That deadline would still be met, but then we would just have the issue of maybe we may still have to extend it because they do want a
Final
result of an accepted new code. So even if we spent their money by December 31st, I think we would still likely need an extension for the approval process itself. But I can talk to them, feel them out, and make sure. I don't think it would be a huge problem, especially if I can
They understand
demonstrate.
we can't find anyone to help us.
Right.
Yeah.
I can demonstrate our challenges
Yeah.
and all that. I don't think it's a huge deal, but I haven't dealt with DOLA grants before. So
So
I
bottom
can do that.
line, if Lisa talks to these groups and figures out what the impediments are or whatever, and we are able to find a way around them and be able to work with somebody, can we just do that? Or do we have to have quotes, or what do we have to make that decision and move forward? And does it have to be approved by BOT once we beg somebody to work with us and they agree to, then do I have to go to BOT?
yeah, I mean, the code is one thing it's pretty clear on his purchasing policy. And so that if once you get above that 25,000 mark, then it does require that whole request for proposals and sealed bids and all that stuff, just like a construction project essentially. And unless, I think if we used our existing town attorney and that person, that land use specialist, I think that would be probably a way around that in a way, because we already have a contract with them and we already have these funds that are essentially approved to be spent in that way. So I think that would be maybe the only way that we could, kind of
Yeah. I really
shortcut
do.
it, but do we want to shortcut it?
Yeah, I don't know. What I'd love is if you could provide me the information for their land use person, people, department, and let me have a chat with them and just see if
Mhm. Who are they?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Can the Kirkpatrick money be used?
it can, but we want to use the full amount that's already been granted to us, and we want to use it timely and be able to be paid back. The
I mean-
Kirkpatrick, if we are leaving a bunch on the table, Kirkpatrick's not going to be very happy with that. So we need to finish dealing with the grant that's already there for us.
I kind of guess I misunderstood. I thought they could chime in if needed. You know,
They can. That's right. They can.
Maybe,
But we want to
that
be able
might-
to use the other money as well, and they have a deadline.
oh, yeah.
And Kirkpatrick doesn't, so we'll worry
Well-
about them later.
Well, because I was going to kind of say I agree about using the town attorney because they do know the town. They've worked, that's their responsibility.
I just want to make sure it's not a conflict of interest, so I kind of want
Oh,
to
I don't think
so-
it would.
deal with that, and they may have a conflict of interest, who knows? But I'll have the conversation.
They would
Alright.
have to go over it at the end anyway, wouldn't they, to make sure we're okay?
Exactly, and so that's where the conflict could come in. They're reviewing their own work, et cetera, et
Oh,
cetera.
I
But
don't think so.
anyway, let's go on to, I think we got a plan for A and B. And now we're at C.
One more thing I like Todd's idea about having some public meetings and trying to explain. you know, just-
Absolutely, absolutely. Do we want to
Or-
pick a date?
And have them often.
Do we want to have pick a date? I'm not sure we're there where we even know what our codes are going to be, but I'm
Well-
happy to pick a date if y'all want to.
Well, I just thought,
Todd?
you know, just a gathering together, come and talk about it, you know, we don't,
Yeah, it'd probably be more under the heading of, here's where we want to go. Here's what
Yeah.
we're thinking about.
That's what I don't know yet.
And, if,
they,
as long as you're like deciding to keep what you've already reviewed for the zones, that's something we could go out with. We could say, here's what your zones were, here's what we're thinking about, and here may be some differences. And just start getting the information out there. So yeah,
Well, I had on my calendar, our next meeting would be the 23rd of August, which is a Tuesday. This committee has already been heavily taxed with what we're doing, and to throw in public meetings on top of that is a lot. I'm happy to call this a public meeting, and anybody can come and join our meeting and hear all about it. And we'll just call those public meetings.
my sister always said, if you offer food, they'll come.
Todd,
We can
your comment?
eat cookies and coffee and come to the meeting.
I think that's formal public hearings. We wouldn't necessarily have to have a formal public hearing because it's just more of a.
Are you talking, Todd? I can't hear
Yeah,
you.
He's
I'm
checking something.
I'm
Just a
checking
second,
something,
Ann.
Nate.
Okay,
Do a workshop ahead of the meeting. Invite the public.
Well-
Okay,
Can-
one of the
can we
thoughts is
also-
to do a
go ahead.
workshop before your meeting and invite the public. And say,
And we have to miss dinner.
no, you set your own times.
But can we also maybe have a summary then? I mean,
We need
for
that.
them just to sit and listen to all this is not going to be helpful, but
No.
maybe have a summary
You want something
on,
that you
at,
can-
at those designated
yeah, you want something to
meetings.
put up in front of
Right.
folks and basically say, and, in my mind, if I was a landowner, I'd be saying, okay, how does this affect me?
Right,
That's the question you're really wanting to
that's
try to
what
address.
people want to know.
right. But I'm just saying we just add a little summary and then they wouldn't have to stay for all of, but
And
Nate,
that
are you
way-
able to prepare something like that by 2 weeks from now?
Summary of what,
an
The
overview,
differences?
kind of like when you log into Netflix and then they kind of tell you what the other episodes showed, like that.
I could take a stab at it. Yeah. I'm just trying to think, how does that, like the summary of
There's no summary yet. is there?
Or what we feel is pertinent to share, I guess.
And
not,
would
know.
you like to take that on and
No.
put together the summary and what our current code has and what the direction we're going, since you want us
No.
to have this meeting?
No, I don't think I could do that. I'm sorry. That's just, I wish people would just look at the code, every citizen, if they would just go through it and say, how does this affect me?
It's the same with everything. You can post as much information as you can, but you can't lead a horse to water. I mean,
Mm-mm.
They won't do it. Yeah,
it's frustrating, but I mean, that's the reality of it.
yeah.
Nate,
Maybe
if you don't mind, could you take a stab at it? And if you're able to put something together, circulate it, and we can have it as the first item on the agenda, call it a public meeting, everybody come, we'll go over it. More than likely, no one will show up, but at least we've had our public meeting, we've invited everybody, and we've done what we can do. And then we'll continue with our work. Does that make sense, everybody?
I'm just wondering if it's too soon. I
Well,
mean,
that's what I'm saying.
I think it
But
is,
Todd wants us to have this meeting, so
well, it is too soon for a summary.
I understand, but.
I just don't, because like we've been getting through what, maybe 10 page or maybe 10 pages each review session. So like we haven't even really gotten we're about a quarter of the document. And so I think it would be more comprehensive if it
Yeah.
was towards the end of what we're doing here.
Couldn't agree more, but
But
we've got
time
this
isn't a
time issue.
I'll take it back. I'll take it back. No, let's not do what Todd said. Let's just do
I agree. Let's wait till we know what the heck we're gonna do before we
it. Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
public in.
But,
Okay.
you know, if we have to do something for legal purposes or whatever, Todd, we can call this a public meeting, invite everybody and do the best we can do.
You know, the real thing is just trying to get information out there so we don't have meltdowns when we actually do
That's
start
right.
adopting things.
Todd, would you like to take a stab at putting together a summary of the current and the direction we're going? Would you like to do that?
If you're comfortable with where we are with zoning, I could.
If
maybe do
all
something
we're
like that.
saying is this is where we think we're going, but we don't know yet.
Yep.
We can say that.
Yeah, but the whole concept is to try to get information out there, because just like what happened on the stilling basins, we really didn't have the artist concepts really early enough. Those probably should have been done, in my opinion, back in 2020. And, you know, if those would have been done then, yeah, the stuff would have hit the fan then, but at least people then know when.
If
trees
people are
start
paying
coming down.
attention.
Yeah.
So forget Nate trying to put this together. Todd, why don't you take a stab at it? And if he can you send it to Nate, circulate, and we can have that as a first item agenda. This is a public meeting and we're providing the information. And if people come, they come. If they don't, they don't. And at least we're starting
Yeah.
that clock running.
That's all you can do, really. Yeah.
So we're talking about the 23rd?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody good for the 23rd, and we'll say
Mhm.
6:30?
Mm-hmm.
You good?
This is gonna be about as
Okay.
interesting as watching paint dry.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Or grass grow.
Yeah.
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 all right, let's
And
turn to
rust.
page. It looks like we left off on we're ready to start page 22, which is Article 412-4-10. And I don't know with mitigation if there seems to be a volume of information. I'm trying to figure out what is going to fit for our town. But I will say this is a hard-working committee, and I need everybody on this commission to step up and help with different aspects of this. And there may be somebody that needs to do research on fire mitigation and come back with some recommendations for what fits for this town. in the area of mitigation. And maybe we want to kind of skip some of this till we get that done. Thoughts, commissioners?
Well, I think we need to, I think we need to see what's here and then just briefly at least review it.
Okay,
And, I mean, there is here, it's right here, risk reduction, mitigation. And maybe, I don't know, maybe there's not a ton we need to change, just these points, and maybe it's more enforcement. I'm gonna digest this with a new eye, I think. Cause I
Okay.
have read it, but
Yeah.
it's been,
This is Article 4, you're talking about development design.
yes, ma'am.
yep,
That's where we
Okay.
are. Page
Yeah.
22.
Right.
All right, so are the commissioners good with kind of reviewing this tonight? And we can make our comments as we've previously been doing, trying to use our common sense as we go through this. Good with you, Mike?
yeah, why don't we look at this and then we just got all these other resources to take a peek at.
Exactly.
And we could skim them and go, okay, what do we need that's pertinent, you know?
Would someone be willing to just consolidate all the WUI information that we've received into just one, even just a simple document with all the different
You
links
mean
and
what he
stuff?
talked about? Oh, yeah, I could.
Like and then that way it's all in one place for reference, and then that could even be part of whatever, an agenda.
I
or
can do that
whatever.
real quick and I'll just put what Chief Murphy's
Yeah, and
remarks
then-
were and your.
And then if everyone's
The high
able to
points.
review all those things easily, or I mean, not quickly necessarily, but that would inform the review of this section. But then the question is, does it make sense to review this section?
You're
now.
right.
Without
Let's-
that.
Yeah, let's skip it.
Okie
Let's
dokie.
skip it and do that. And
I like
Okay.
that. Anybody else disagree with that?
nope.
Okay. So now we're to, I guess,
Signs.
page 25, grading and drainage, stormwater drainage. Is that where we are?
Well, Yeah,
That's 12-4-20. Section 3 says this site drainage shall be in accordance with this municipal code. So do we already have municipal code that's addressing grading and drainage? Site drainage?
The only stuff I've seen has been in conjunction with the grading and erosion control language. I'm not sure about the rest of the code, to be honest.
It references Article 7 of this chapter. I don't know if that's something she cut and pasted or if it actually is here.
I'm
I've got-
looking
I've got a
looking
few-
here. Go ahead, Dan, sorry.
Well, I was going to say, if you want to skip down to grading regulations, you see that on page 26B. I just have a little note there about grading standards. Any land disturbing activity whose design requires the grading of slopes shall meet the specific standards. And then it has retaining structures and terracing. Are those all current rules too, Nate, do you suppose? It's
Oh.
really,
I think all of this is proposed. This is what was created by the attorney.
because we have some of those now, because Nate had to look at them regarding Mike's thing even. It's so hard to tell. If this was just, I put down here that Nina copied it from Manitou and Woodland Park. But I
Nate,
could
do you
be,
feel like some of this is repetitious? I think is her question.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
And is
Are
it-
we talking about 12-4-20?
Yes,
Yeah, she's jumped over to
She's
page
just-
26.
she's down to the next set,
B2
B.
is where she is.
grading regulations.
I mean, and then, well, I had another thing here. No, that's wildlife stuff.
This is different. Our current code talks a lot about well, there's the hillside overlay, which talks a lot about slopes and, you know, development standards based on different slope percentages. So I think this is I don't know. I think this is very, I don't know. It seems vague to me. Like any activity whose design requires the grading of slopes. I mean, that's pretty much everything. I mean, I don't know.
It seems
Very
everything in town. It's got a slope like that.
I was going to suggest you look at the A2 on the applicability. Right now it says 5,000 square feet. We've been using another standard previous to that.
What
Previous-
standard were we previously?
We've
using?
been using like 50 cubic yards. And that's a volumetric measurement instead of just a square area.
Notice.
Square feet.
Was that
Way
written?
more than mine. Mine's 720 square feet.
5,000 square feet is basically the size of some of our lots.
Right.
And in the past, we have adopted, it was, I think, 300 square feet or 50 cubic yards. And that seems to have been, the one we mainly seem to be using is the 50 cubic yards.
And where is that written, Todd? Is that in municipal code or is
That
that
was in our
the
old land use.
old land use code?
Don't,
And that's
this is when
still-
we need an engineer or somebody to, I mean, I don't fit, you've got, you know, your experience, but this is just like, whoop, I have no idea.
Yeah, it requires that requires definitely engineering level planning to determine that for sure.
And what do we do now? Do we refer to, let's say, you know, there's a slope issue. What if Mike's thing was more steep or something and we had concerns, was it?
Then we
speak
would
to you,
hire,
or-
the town would force either send all the plans to a third-party engineer for independent review.
Well, maybe that's
And
what
then
we just kind of figure
pass
out
the
where those
cost.
thresholds are and then it has to be reviewed or something, rather
It's-
than us try to
try to
give all the
write-
guidelines for it or something.
It's kind of like Mike keeps saying, it's common sense. You know? it's-
Okay, so she made all these changes. Is there a reason for it or just arbitrary? Do you know,
I
Todd,
don't-
since you were involved in that process?
No, I'm not sure why she pulled some of this in.
Okey doke.
Do
I
we,
know, just looking at it, I can, you know, for, you know, what I believe to be enforceable. You know, this, well, if you go on down to section B, I'm not sure that's enforceable. Go back up, I think. Yeah.
Talking about.
Right.
To the
it's-
page
maximum extent.
26?
To the
it's-
maximum, anytime you have, to the maximum extent practical, okay.
Right,
an
and that's an opinion. I know, I was thinking of what you were saying, yeah.
And how do we enforce?
This doesn't
the
define anything.
Yeah,
What was wrong with our original grading and drainage codes?
Nothing. Really.
I'm asking Todd.
the one thing that I think I personally came across with was that, you know, we had difficulty in getting an erosion person out, for one thing. And, you know, yes, we had erosion plans and we did it in accordance with those plans. But if someone had, say, an erosion problem, then we really had, at least what I thought to be, no means to where they could address the problem. And then, you know, if it was a certain volumetric thing like the 50 cubic yards, then come back in and say, here's how I address the problem. So yeah, that was kind of awkward because we were basically trying to address problem, even though I had an erosion control thing, we were trying to address problems before the guy could actually come out and actually do the plan work. So yeah, it was kind of,
So
That
what
was
would you
weird.
recommend?
I'm almost wondering if there's some meat we could put into maybe what we have existing, but then also have capabilities for, say, emergency type situations. You know, where folks just need to take care of something now instead of waiting a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever, to come in front of the town body.
What kind of problems are we talking about?
Yeah,
Before we
emergency.
could get the erosion control actually done, the way the plan said, I had a rut that was about 3 feet wide and 4 feet deep coming off the property. And basically what we were doing was we were trying to haul material up with the ATV, and then we set up basically a chute to try to dump it back down in until we could get the erosion control folks out.
Seems to me the degree of the slope would be more important, easier to deal with than how many cubic yards of stuff you might have to move, because I couldn't even estimate how many yards until we get in and start digging and find out whether we got boulders to move and blast or whatever.
Yeah, that was kind of the deciding, the 300 square feet and the 50 cubic yards was kind of the threshold point of when you had to actually have these plans in place.
But there was no slope variability.
But it
That's-
seems to
that's
me the slope is
not it.
more important than
Yes.
the number of cubic yards you move.
Maybe in some cases, you might have, I would agree that in certain cases, the slope is a dominating factor, but you also have others where the dominating factor may actually be how you're moving the dirt around. So yeah, that,
Is this like during construction we're worried about, or is this just like somebody's got a gully and it's washing out?
yes, all of the
Okay.
above.
Now, this, the way it's written, applies to any new development site with a disturbed area of XYZ.
Yeah, and that's what any code we would adopt would be. Anything new would likely be covered by
But
whatever.
if you've got an existing gully that's washing out, do we have something in here that deals with that?
No, not to my knowledge.
Did our old code address existing gullies?
No, it's just.
And you're
new.
saying you feel like we need it, or why do we need it?
I'm saying you probably want to consider having something that where the homeowner could actually take action on their own.
Can they not already now?
I just did. Okay,
Sure,
obviously,
sure.
until our erosion control guy came in and got the erosion control stuff up. But I just did. Now, was I actually operating, doing things outside of what I should have been doing? I don't know, but I didn't care at that time because I had half the mountain washing down and it's right outside our septic system, which was even worse.
Been there, done it. Todd, I so appreciate your help and being here at our meetings every time, and it's so helpful. So I hesitate to ask you to do anything more, but I'm just wondering in this section if you and maybe Nate could get together with the existing code and just make some recommendations about what we should do, because this seems
Yeah.
to complicate things further.
Our existing we'd have to obviously go into the hillside overlay of our existing, because that's where a lot of this stuff exists now. I'm not too terribly opposed to what they have down in for the grading regulations under grading standards for say a 3-to-1. Something exceeds a 3-to-1 grade, which is fairly easy to identify.
Okay, but you were unsure that it was enforceable.
Well, no, that was in the previous section.
Okay,
up above.
okay.
That was the number one,
Yeah.
purpose and intent.
Yeah, anytime I see maximum extent possible, then I kind of think it's not enforceable. But then under B for grading standards, the 3-to-1, okay, I mean, that's fairly easy to
And this-
identify.
Do we have a town engineer?
What?
This says it's going to be determined by our town engineer. Who's that?
We don't have a town
It's who the
engineer.
town contract
Okay,
Yeah, well, we do have
And
an
we-
engineer, but it would
Is that the person that,
be preferable for the homeowner to come in and say, here's my grade, show us the yardsticks and whatever they use to measure it.
So maybe just this first A section, stormwater drainage. Todd, does that make sense?
Yeah, you'd want the purpose and the applicability.
If you can play with
This-
that a little bit, maybe.
This drainage thing to me is just nothing but fluff. Is what I call it.
Well, do we take it out?
Mhm.
I think you probably want to have something on drainage in, but it's just a matter of,
Well, I
What is it?
know that the comprehensive plan really wanted us to address flooding. And so to me, drainage has to be a part of flooding.
yeah, drainage, you can always go in and say, like say, I like this grading standard, say 3-1. We could say anything over and then 3-1. Okay, we're going to require you to have, those straw log things, every so many feet up above it. And that's something we could enforce.
Okay. Straw logs, how many feet apart?
Yeah. I can measure mine
Okay.
if you want.
This will all kind of work together with our new roads plan that we're trying to work
So we're
out.
leaving this with, Todd, are you able to play with A a little bit?
Yeah, let me play with A a little bit.
Okay. And then we like B as is. We're just going to add in the straw logs and Todd's going to measure how far
Yeah, I
apart.
was thinking of putting straw logs in on A. You gotta, if you disturbed it, if it's over 3-1, you gotta lay down a mat and put in straw logs.
Okay.
And I can pull up our prints and from our place on our erosion control plan and kind of see what the real language is supposed to be.
Okay, that sounds good. Todd, are we ready to go on to signs then? Can we leave this?
Yeah.
All right. 12-4-30 signs. What was our current code about signs?
It went on and on and on. It was wild.
Oh, gosh. I hate to tell y'all, but I'm gonna have to sign off. I'm just
Well,
not,
thanks for being on the call, Ann.
I just am not feeling very well now. I've got a sore throat.
Oh, dear. Well, you
Oh.
take care of yourself.
Well, good luck, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Well, can we do something that makes sense, like business district signage and residential signage? And didn't we talk about this already?
This is the current sign. This is our current code.
And it is long.
Oh, my goodness.
Do we comply with it? Probably not.
Does anybody ever look at it? Is it ever?
I think this is all way too complicated for a little town.
How about something simple? How about anything over 1 by 10 signs on any property have to go in front of the planning commission and
Yeah, I just say, look at them at the
Well-
time and see whether or not.
I think that's cumbersome,
There.
like our Bronx Day banners and all that. We'd have to come in front of the, I mean, that's just,
yeah, that would
Well,
be,
how about
That's
permanent
too-
signs? Only permanent signs that are that size.
yes.
yeah, and then we have to do the enforceability. We have to think about that. And how do you approve one over another and not approve one over another?
Do we have a problem? Are signs
Are we
causing us a problem right now?
are we a solution looking for a problem?
Okay, maybe we just say each property is limited to 2 1 by 10 signs.
Residential, I mean,
Yeah, in a residential
1 by
area.
10, what, one,
1
1
foot,
foot.
oh, pardon me, 12 by 10, 12 inch by 10 inch.
Yeah, but
or
what if you
whatever,
want to
12
put
by
up a
8.
political sign or, like during a, they're a little bigger. I don't know.
Well, that total, you could do it you could do it
Oh,
square
okay.
area.
All right.
You could say no signs over this amount of square area.
6 square. What are we trying to avoid? What kind of signs do we not want?
Well, you probably don't want neon signs on residential areas.
Hateful information,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do we have any?
No, I mean,
No.
this is all pure speculation type thing.
We don't want signs that keep you from being able to see a stop sign or see around, safety, traffic kinds of things.
That's the triangle piece.
We had a lot of signs up when the Bonsai Village was brewing. They're now down, but were they in violation of?
The larger ones, well, it depends on, if you want to just adopt, say, a maximum area.
One thing I noticed in our current code is that there's like a size limit for like a 2x3 or something, 2 foot by 3 foot sign, which is, even, the signs that are down here for the sky space parking, those are bigger than that, but no one's doing sign permits, like it's just not
We got a
happening.
little sign up in front of one of our cabins that says
Yeah.
it's a VRBO and it's got the number on it.
Right.
It's probably about like this. I don't, but haven't had any neighbors object to it.
I like number 4, the prohibited sign types. I think that covers the nuisance situation well.
Where's that?
Number
It's
4.
on page 30. And I don't know that we need too much more unless we just want to have a max sign size or number.
I'd say let's do that and put the prohibited sign types and if it's a problem, deal with it at the time. What about business signs? Or is this cover that?
I think you need
could set
one.
up
Down
for
on the
different
You should have
sections.
a sign.
You could set up for different zonings if you wanted.
Is it done here, though?
It doesn't. There are some, later on page 32, it does break some down by, looks like residential and business.
There's the residential district.
SFR and MFR is all residential?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, that's not bad. It's like
Single
2 per
family,
site,
multifamily.
2 square feet. Yard signs. I mean, those get specifications. I'm kind of wondering if this wouldn't be the piece to keep and.
Keep E. Keep number 4 and
Yeah.
Zoning district design. Where's the business sign?
Is that B?
Business is under F zoning
B zoning.
district.
FB zoning district. Okay. Do we like how that looks? That all looks reasonable to me. So keep at EF.
Primary sign not to exceed the size of 15% facade area, which is.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
your,
not reasonable
that's your
to
front
me.
face. That's your front of the building.
That's
and
not
that,
reasonable
again-
to you as a business owner?
Well, I think ours is probably 15% is sticking out this way instead of that way, but. That's
Yeah.
15% of the square footage in our front.
Yeah, I'm sure yours would be a lot less than 15%.
No letter sign may exceed 2 feet high. Maximum height 20 feet. Okay, here, except any sign hanging over any pedestrian walkway shall maintain a clearance to the ground of at least 7 feet. I think we. There.
You know, you just don't want somebody hitting their
Sign
head on
shall
it.
extend more than 6 feet over any property line. Okay, I guess we're legal. We can keep this.
So do we like E, F, and number 4 and get rid of everything else?
Mhm.
What's the DV overlay?
You see something? that you
And
want to
G,
keep?
what's the G right after that? What's the DV overlay district? DV, what's that stand for?
What is the overlay? district?
Downtown. Well, it's V, not B. Village. Oh, okay, thank you. Oh, in this new wording.
And are we doing that?
Yeah.
Is it in our charts and everything?
Yeah, I think we talked about removing the historic preservation overlay or not using that for now, but I don't know that we eliminated the downtown village. Because that allows for, like in this instance, you could say, because it's our business core area, it has different rules, a little bit different leeway or whatever for signs or for parking or for whatever. For signs, I don't know about signs. Well, I mean, other stuff.
Okay, so we're keeping E, F, and G and number 4, correct?
Sure. So get rid of everything else.
Yeah.
You're saying?
We're not using a trailer as a sign. Motor vehicles, you can't stick a sign on it. Traffic safety. I'm just going back up the
I
pages
feel
that you're
like
going to get
4
rid of.
covers a lot of that and.
Okay. So we're going to get rid of D, general sign standards on 29. I'm just going back up above to see what else we're getting rid of.
I just think it's too complicated. And if we just say,
Mhm.
I mean, there's been several suggestions here that we have a max sign size or something like that. But I think that's covered in E, really.
Well, we just say if the mayor doesn't like it, you can't have it. Not enforcement.
Like the sign in front of the church is pretty big.
Yes, it is. You can just render.
That would be
That's
the
fine.
business district,
Mhm, but that's
so
fine. I mean,
you think
it's
it's
more
over
than
15% of their facade?
Yeah, this is way
No.
too complicated.
about, I don't know, maybe 20. I don't know.
We're gonna simplify.
Probably
it and
not.
say,
It's
let's
a pretty
take
big
out
building.
those.
Yeah.
Okay, and yeah, I don't think we need all this.
Okay, so we're going to strike, whoops, not too far.
All right, 12,440.
See
Access,
what I-
connectivity, and circulation.
So we're getting rid of everything
Yeah,
except for,
number 4, E, F, and G.
You might want to keep some of the exemptions,
Some of the what's?
some of the exemptions in part C.
C.
Yeah.
Exemptions. C. Oh, okay, yeah, we didn't even talk about that. Signs exempted from permit requirement.
I don't think we need, like what? Of course, they can have housing numbering. They
Housing
could have their
numbers,
flag out front. They can have
Flags.
Or we just keep this.
the decoration thing.
Holiday decor. Yeah, let's just, why not keep all of C?
So they're exempted from permits.
Well, what if we took it away? Then it wouldn't even be discussed.
Well, if we took it away,
There's
then
yard
you're
signs.
looking over here at your side on section E, you're saying,
Mhm.
okay, they can only be 42 inches in height and blah, 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 yard signs. This just for these situations says you don't even have to worry about all that.
Okay.
Yeah, and if we're not issuing permits, then you just strike that line out. They're just exempt.
Exempt from shall be exempt. from requirements of this section. And
Yeah.
just take away the permit.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right, so we're keeping C.
And then A and B, did we decide to get rid of that? Signs.
B is sign permits, so we don't really want to permit a sign. Do we? Oh. Mm-mm. I said get rid of it. And then the purpose is vague. It's another vague, it's opinion. Right? Unless we need to have that purpose in there.
I don't guess it's doing any harm.
Mhm,
Sort of the preamble to the whole thing.
mhm.
Words.
It doesn't mean anything, but there's no law with it, but it's at least the intent. And then what did we decide about B? Forget it. Or do we have to have it because a sign permit shall be granted if sign complies with the requirements of this section in this chapter, and then we're keeping E. Signs may be erected, altered, and maintained only for a permitted use in the district in which the signs are located, blah, blah, blah.
I think I don't know, it all comes down to enforcement for permits because,
Yeah.
for instance, people don't know that business licenses are required. So we have people doing business without business licenses, but no one's enforcing it. So what's the point, So do you want to have sign permits? That's just
We really
another
don't.
administrative
We don't.
thing.
We don't want
And
that.
then if you,
If somebody has an obnoxious sign, you gotta talk to them. Say, would you get rid of that obnoxious sign?
So does that mean we take out the A purpose and everything too, or?
make it more of a less of a permitted use and more of a, make it less of a permitted use and more of a, I don't know what, just rules that are enforceable by tickets, or whatever.
It's the intent of the section too.
Just start there. Okay, great. I like it.
What's that? This one?
The end of the section is to go 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever.
Yeah.
And just say it is,
Strike the rest of that paragraph.
it is the intent of this section too. Yeah. It's good.
But it's sort of, you got it.
But what do we do about C that we're keeping? The following sign shall be exempt from the permit requirements of this section when we're not permitting.
I just struck permit and then signs exempted from requirement.
Perfect.
The requirements of the section.
Perfect. And we can do
And then
this.
if the other things are then just rules that could be enforced in theory.
Okay, and then like in E, we mentioned the word permitted again. Let's figure that out again. And
Where's, oh,
F, we mentioned permitted again. But we could just use allowed, number of signs permitted, allowed.
only for use.
Are we ready to move on to 12-4-40? Page 33.
If we have to.
Okay, we got to eat before tonight, so. All right. This talks about emergency vehicles being able to get in and out.
How can we legislate what every lot will have to have and driveways if there are no driveways and no lot? I
For
mean,
new,
no size around the lot. For the driveway.
yeah, for new development, this, if you implement
Can't
as,
go back and go up the street and say, you don't have a driveway, but you gotta have one.
No,
no,
this is all new
Yeah.
development.
this is all new development. Now you got to keep in mind that adopting some of these may make some lots non-developable
Yeah.
unless they come in and ask for a variance or something. I'm going to point out on sidewalks that it's on, and I'm jumping ahead, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Pedestrian circulation under D, sidewalks, they're calling for 5 feet wide minimum.
Oh my gosh, concrete.
Do
I don't
we
think
have
so.
any- There is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know-
we don't have sidewalks, but,
Feet either.
but if you put one in now, you would have to go 5 foot minimum.
Yeah, no. I don't know that we need anything about sidewalks, curbs or gutters. What does everybody think? Even for new development, that would be kind of onerous, don't you think?
Do we have any sidewalk? I mean,
I didn't hear you.
do we have any sidewalks anywhere?
Well, yeah, we
In
got
the
the
residential area?
we got the downtown.
Well, just,
and
right.
We've
But-
got the path that's going in on the gazebo lake, which
That's not a
doesn't meet
sidewalk.
this.
It's not a sidewalk. It's a trail.
Well, but it's gonna get concrete.
Oh, okay,
So
well,
that's gonna be concrete, but even that
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
meet this.
Mhm.
Owns that property, don't we?
We do.
We have to put sidewalk like we want it. 5 feet if we need to. But I
Yeah.
can't imagine we're gonna have
No,
any
I don't-
sidewalks other than the ones downtown.
This doesn't
I
make
don't recall
sense.
Seeing any sidewalks in the residential areas. People walking the streets.
No, uh-uh.
I think we take out sidewalks.
Our streets aren't defined. I mean, good grief.
Yeah. We have right of ways that,
Right, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
we got-
saying. Right, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think take that away.
Same thing with number 2, on-site pedestrian connections.
Offsite park, is that down below? Yeah.
Okay, 12,450, off-site parking and loading.
Off-street
Off-site,
parking.
off-street Parking and loading. And this again is for new construction.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, the other section was only new
'Cause the beer trucks
development.
Park in the middle of the street when they unload down in front of the.
Right,
Blue
I know, they're
ones.
right in front of there to unload, but,
B is all new development in this section, so.
yeah, but.
This is where it has that. This is where it has that payment in lieu, payment of an occupier fee in lieu.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
that was actually something that I worked with, because the firehouse was going on at the same,
Right.
when this, at that time anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, the firehouse has no capability for parking. And we're not going to deny a business. And she goes, well, one of the things you might want to consider is having payment in lieu of. And it's like,
And where's this?
It's under C,
Page
page
34.
35 at the very
Yeah.
top.
and so she went in. she went
35
in-
at the very top. C, it says exemptions, C following number 1. District overlay, payment of occupier fee in lieu of.
It's at the bottom of my page 30.
Do we want people to pay in lieu of fees?
This would be something that we could do. Because we had to do a variance for the firehouse.
Right,
That's also an option. this could be another option where they just come in and say, okay, I'm going to give you 2,000, 5,000, whatever the fee schedule gets set up to be if this is adopted. But
Do we need
basically,
that to make
can't-
money for the town, though? Is this something that we need to charge?
What now?
Do we need to make money for the town? Do we need to charge businesses
No,
to do
this
this?
is just something another option to do in case someone physically can't do the parking requirements.
Right, I
They
understand.
could dump some money in and say, and we could say, yep, we've accepted your fee. Have a nice day, or we could do a variance, whatever. This is just another option.
How does this help if they don't have parking? How does this help the town for them to pay us if they don't have
Right,
parking?
that's my point.
It's just a little bit more money coming into the coffers. Basically, it'd go back into the general fund more than likely.
We're not gonna clear
Yeah.
ground and make.
To build a parking garage? Oh,
Or just to maintain or make parking in another spot, like on the other side of the lake or
But do
something right away.
I know, but are we gonna do that?
Or you could pay for valet service to get the cars out of the way in someplace else.
Yeah.
Or if nothing else, just paving Lake Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting estimates on some paving and stuff.
So I can see how you could, if it's just a huge problem with what do we do with these cars? Let's take them to Joyland parking lot or whatever with the
Mhm.
valet company,
Mhm.
and then the town could pay for that with whatever, or the
It's
fees.
just an option.
Y'all want to leave it like it is or no?
And which section are we talking about?
I'm at the
Top
bottom
of
of page
page
34.
35.
I don't know how it got on page 35, but
Oh,
mine,
is that how yours printed?
yeah, mine's
I don't know.
printed at the bottom of page 34,
What,
but
there's
it's
so many iterations.
It's 12-4-50 and it's section C.
Oh, right.
As in
That's
caps.
35.
So if yours is like mine, I don't know, Nate printed mine, so.
How many total pages do you have?
Well, mine,
105.
mine's a previous copy because I haven't been going back copying it again every time.
No, I haven't either. This was printed a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we want to do? I don't mind leaving it. I can think of that one circumstance where it would be reasonable for them to pay if
Yeah, I'm
there's
okay
that
with
many
it
cars.
too. I just didn't know if we had changes in the use of a structure that do not expand. the square footage. What's 3? Changes in the use of a structure that do not expand the square footage of the structure, provided the existing off-street parking remains unaltered. My God, what does that mean?
Please, somebody tell
I think
us.
I'm getting too tired.
I
I'm just
agree.
like, what?
I can't even.
That doesn't
understand
make
it.
sense. I think it should go away.
What section you see?
We're now at
I just went down, I read 1, but we just said occupier fee. It's okay. I read 2.
And now we're
um,
on 3.
And I read 3 and I don't even understand what it means.
Okay,
So
so
like,
a use. Think of your use table. If someone changes, say a use, say for example,
use of the structure. Okay.
yeah, either like
That do
one of the
not
downtown
expand.
businesses changes use.
Okay, then they're
Or something
exempt.
else.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
So
I'm
if they
too
don't
tired. I get
expand,
it.
then they're,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all right.
Okay, we like exemptions. That's all fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
If a business downtown changes use, they aren't gonna be able to manufacture space to park cars. So basically, they're gonna have their customers park somewhere else. And the idea of making a contract with Joyland and
Well, no, this is,
van service going by.
this is an exemption. This is
Yeah.
that we're not
This
going to
means
mess with it.
You are
Yeah.
not.
It's bolded
Fine.
above. We're not going to mess with it.
We're
If
leaving you
this
alone.
happens,
Okay, good.
you know, if you turn the Pain and Bear into, a big restaurant, we're
Yeah.
not going to mess with you.
Oh, good. That ain't gonna happen though.
Okay, D, computation of parking and loading requirements. Oh, this will be fun. Oh, square. Do we really want to do this? Minimum number of off-street parking spaces required for the continuing care and retirement facility and the single. No, There's no way we can do this. Single family dwelling has to have 2 spaces per
Yeah,
unit.
this doesn't make, yeah, I
Yeah,
think we
for
started
new
to talk
ones,
about
yes.
this.
Because my house had to have 2 spaces and that actually, I think, was a carryover from our old code.
Wow.
Well, what did you think about that? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's an excellent thing.
Okay.
So then,
Personally, because obviously we had the space for it, but
well, and so somebody that's building on one of these little lots that.
It would make it
demolish a house,
unbuildable
They're gonna,
again.
yeah.
there are some very small lots that it would be very difficult to get 2 spaces
Mhm.
for that one house.
Impossible.
Yeah. And
mean,
I can
we've
tell you,
got-
there are houses here in town that, under the old stuff, non-conforming use and
Mhm.
structures that have 0
Well,
yeah.
Sure, oh, yeah.
I used to own one of them.
Mhm.
parking spaces. So
So do we really want to require it? Or do we want to just require it and do a variance for people so they can build there, even if they don't have a space?
yeah, that's why we're together.
That's the
boy.
question. What do
Oh,
y'all want
boy.
to do?
Let's require it so it can be reviewed, at
Okay.
least, you know?
Okay.
So that we can review a variance or whatever we need to do, or right away or whatever. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, because
So people aren't
That-
just building a
that can
house and then,
protect, say, what I think is going to happen to Green Mountain Falls is property values are going to go up to a point where entities are going to come in and knock down existing structures and put up new. And at that point, okay, if they put in, and if we're say, for example, we're under single family residential can have duplexes. Okay, well, now you got to have so many
4.
parking spaces. You'd have to have, well, the 2 family would be 1.5
3, so you'd have to
per
have
unit. So
3.
you'd have to have 3.
1.5, yeah,
Yep. And
per
so
unit.
that's why I think it's probably going to be the likely scenario
Mhm.
for the town in the future. You're going to see things, people coming in and either doing significant modifications or basically just bulldozing and starting over.
Mhm. Okay,
So we got our chart here. Should we just leave as is?
and do we leave in the continuing care retirement facility? Do we have that? Maybe we
Did we
took that
take that
away.
out or did we?
I think we took that out.
I'm putting a note in here to review that so that I can,
Okay.
because we
I think
reviewed
we-
all that in the use
I
table,
think we
so
might have taken it away.
I'll sync it up. I think we
Yeah.
took that out of residential.
Club and the daycare center business too.
Yeah, so I can
And the
sync
group
all
home
this up.
business, all that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, next page is really
And the
fun.
medical clinic and fire station and all that. Yeah.
Page
keeps going.
36. Commercial or services uses. How many, I guess you can review this too, Nate, and just see how many of these we kept.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just because this just has to be consistent.
Camel we took out.
Yeah.
So you'll just true that one up, right, Nate?
yeah,
Okay. F, unlisted uses.
You know what? There's also short-term rentals on here. This is the first time I've seen it, maybe under commercial service uses, just above industrial, and it says
Based on
the-
housing type, in other words,
yeah.
is it a single family home? Is it a duplex? And I assume that just refers you back to the previous chart.
Right, but it seems like those short-term rentals, a lot of people come. I mean, it seems like more than just,
And, if you wanted to, you could put something in that would be different. You could base it on number
person.
of bedrooms.
or bedrooms, right, yeah.
You
Would
could
that-
say one
Would that be for any single family dwelling or would that be
No,
for
for
short-term rental?
short-term, no, on the short-term rental, because people often come and they share it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
then they've got several cars.
I mean, that's going to be
And
difficult. for
That's what we
most
were
all of
talking about
them.
at the short-term rental.
And it is a problem.
Party, I started to say party.
It is a problem with them. So how many would y'all recommend that you have per bedroom? A car per bedroom? What are you
maybe a
saying?
car per 2 bedrooms.
Mhm.
We have 2-bedroom cabins and typically we get a 4 you know, 4-person family or 5-person family, adults with 2 or 3 kids,
Mm-hmm.
they got one car.
Yeah.
Once in a great while, we'll get 2 sets of adults that come and share a cabin. and-
Right, that's what I was thinking of, yeah.
So we got space for 2 cars per cabin. But I don't think you'd want to set it up worse than that.
Okay,
Okay,
I-
so
And I don't know. I just pulled something out of the air. 1 car per 2 bedrooms.
would this go on our first chart then?
well, based on housing type, we could just leave it
Yeah, you
single
just strike
family.
that and say whatever you want, one space per whatever.
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
I don't either. This is on new,
It could be 1 space per family. I don't, if you've got 2 families,
Yeah,
I don't know.
You want to have something that we can actually look up. So if you do get party house, or
Yeah,
party SDR, we can always look up on El Paso County and see how many bedrooms
How many bedrooms is easy to define?
yeah. Because that's
Okay.
defined on El Paso County assessor.
License, when we get the license or not.
Not now, but it's likely. to
Mike,
be
can
out.
you look that up? Do
Can
you
I
know,
do what?
do you know where to look it up? Okay,
Where?
I don't know. He just said there's a short-term rental guide.
where is
Since
it?
you're a land person, I don't know.
Okay, I didn't hear the question.
No, I was just wondering if Mike could look that up. I thought you indicated that there was some sort of a guide for short-term
Oh,
rentals.
No,
Oh.
I probably didn't speak loud enough.
Okay,
There may be like a kit or something. There's likely to
Right.
be additional. I would anticipate that we're going to have some code things in that's going to say, here's the license requirements that we want to have and
oh, okay.
whatnot.
And then we can make that coordinate with this. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I hate to say family just because you're having a family reunion and we're all family and there's 20 of us, So I
think
hate to,
bedrooms better.
bedrooms are
Okay.
better. Yeah, yeah.
You
And
get a
so,
5-bedroom house, you probably got more than one family there. If you got a 2-bedroom or even a 3-bedroom, that could easily be one family that came in a van, so it seems to be more relevant.
Then and I'm just gonna move over industrial uses.
I just want to have
We're
a
gonna
final solution
I
on
thought
this.
we were
How
gonna-
many bedrooms and how many cars?
Well, we don't know because he's talking about, we're gonna probably make some sort of a kit, right?
But we have to make the decision.
Yeah.
To go in the kit.
Say car for each.
Oh, we're
2
making
bedrooms.
the decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say, come to whatever you think is the right answer here. I pulled out 1 car per 2 bedrooms out of thin air. I don't know if that's right or not.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, I think that's probably reasonable, and if they need a variance,
Again,
we
come get it
can
one.
deal with it.
If it's a
But
weird situation.
Typically, 2 bedrooms would house a family of 4 or 5, and
So 1 car per each 2-bedroom.
yeah. then If
Okay.
you had a 4-bedroom home.
Or a
you'd have 2
3-bedroom,
cars.
then you have to add another one. Okay.
I think that's reasonable. Let's do that.
If
and-
somebody comes in and says, I never have more than a family, we can give them a variance.
And so Nate, short-term rental would be 1 car
Bye.
per 2 bedrooms. You don't get to withdraw
Thank you.
your application after, I know, but you can't withdraw your application after this.
Okay.
after
Yeah, yeah,
what you
really.
just witnessed, okay? What happens here stays here.
You can't assign me any tasks until I'm.
That is correct. That
I
is
see that.
correct.
You, I don't know, how about unofficial tax?
Thank you, Rocco.
Bye.
Yeah, I don't want to scare anybody off. All right.
Yeah,
Probably
this is scary.
know, that's
It would.
concerning.
This is scared Neil.
Come on, y'all.
Brain
We're, how far are we?
Okay,
We
so,
halfway? We may be halfway.
sorry, I was,
Halfway.
right. So then underneath that veterinary clinic, again, you'll take that off. Right?
Yeah, Nate's gonna do all
And then
that.
industrial, okay. So
We're gonna
let's just
forget
go on
that and
down.
let
We're gonna
Nate
forget
do
all
it.
that. Okay.
Unlisted uses, if it's not listed. That's a reasonable thing to have, I guess. Sites with multiple uses.
Why don't we just say the town manager is authorized to establish a minimum off-street parking requirement period and not put 1, 2, and 3 in there. Just say, leave it up to Becky or Nate. They use good judgment. They don't need those guidelines.
That's fine with me. I don't care. I mean, this
Yeah.
local best practices, national, none of that makes, where are you gonna find that?
Yeah.
Everybody agree?
Yeah, that's
Local
true.
best
Yeah.
practices in Green Mountain Falls.
I think one is sort of applicable.
It is applicable, number one. Okay.
Yeah, similar to the proposed use.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
okay,
good.
That's
We
fine.
get challenged.
But the other local best practice, yeah. 2 and 3.
Sites with multiple use. I'm trying to make it to 9 o'clock in case y'all are wondering. That's 10
Oh my
minutes.
God. Oh, you're right. Jeez. On sites with multiple principal uses. Some of the requirements, oh my God. Computed separately and according, oh no.
That seems like.
Oh, does seem,
Which one?
gee. There's a formula, a calculation, an algebraic formula there.
Table 4A.
Mhm.
Where's?
You have to compute it separately in accordance with table 4A, which is the one I think we just went
looked
over.
at, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good
We need
grief.
to worry about that.
Why don't we take that one out?
I'd say.
Do we like
so.
that?
Yes,
Strike G.
yes.
It gives me a headache.
Yeah. I'm up.
Nate, are you gonna devil's advocate?
Well, I
Go
mean, I'm
ahead.
just thinking if there's a site that has a proposed site with like Joyland, for instance, could be a mixed use site that has retail on the
Mhm.
ground floor and apartments on the top or something like that, or short-term rentals on the top. It's
Yeah.
possible that,
Mhm.
right.
True enough.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I'm just thinking it might be something that happens, but
Okay, fine. We'll leave it.
I don't know.
We'll leave it and y'all can figure out what it means because you're the town managers. Okay? H.
Oh, this is hilarious. Spaces in the garage and your driveway shall count towards the requirements of the section.
I like it. They should. Because
Duh.
where else
Well,
have we
that's
got?
really duh. I know.
Areas required to maneuver vehicles should not be used or considered.
Now that's kind of hard to,
Yeah.
but I will say one of the latest STRs that was approved, it's a very challenging street to maneuver. And it'll be interesting to see how the renters actually navigate it, but,
Are you talking about the one on Honda?
no, it's up on, Aura.
Aura.
Yeah, it's
'Cause the
right
one
at
on
the top
Hondo-
of Catamount.
Has basically maybe
Yeah.
a parking spot and a half. It's certainly
Yeah.
not two.
And that
for a
one's
single
that
family.
one hasn't been approved yet, but I don't know. I'm just this seems to relate to. But how do you determine what is you'd have to designate what area is required to maneuver vehicles in order to.
Oh, just leave it. Just
Don't
leave
worry
it.
about that. Let's take it out.
Are we gonna take it out? Okay.
Well, I like the part about the spaces in the garage and driveways count toward the
That's good.
requirements. I like that.
I think that's good because you have a driveway or a garage, that's a space.
Absolutely.
But I think number 2, you should leave in too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if they go up there and they're parked and somebody's coming up the road and they can't turn around, then they're parked in the road, right? Or where the maneuvering is happening.
It's just how do you define that?
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, it's self-evident if you're sitting there looking at the street, I can't get my car out. But you're right, it's not
Areas required
defined.
to Maneuver vehicles shall not be used for considered.
I don't know, areas required to maneuver vehicles.
Areas.
What is an example of
Yeah,
that?
needed.
What would be an area required to maneuver your car?
I'll give you an example.
What?
Okay, so I can't get in my driveway
Yep.
almost to the end of Hondo without going up to the end of Hondo, doing the
turning
circle to come back to get into my driveway because of the angle of my driveway. I cannot get into it. So if you park in that space where I have to turn around, I can't get in my driveway. Is that a good example?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that's also marked as a no parking zone.
Yes, it is. But it's an example.
Right.
I think the Aura Street example is, I think it's a good example. Let's see if I can show you this, if it matters, but,
5 more minutes, we can make it.
I'll suck up the last 10 minutes of the,
Had a bite of this
Yeah,
and
it
it's
shows-
delicious, but it's
shows
loaded with sugar.
cartoons
Now
for
I'm
the last
coming
5
down.
Oh,
all right, so this is Catamount Streat coming up here. This is a very tight street.
Wow.
So their parking area is, they have this concrete slab here. This is a garage. But if someone parked here,
Is that
or
considered a
even,
driveway, right?
yeah, so basically the people here have to, if you park front first, then you have to back out here. Or if you're in the garage, you have to back out here. So if someone parked here, which this is in front of the garage, but even if someone parked right in here, it would make it very challenging to back out, turn around. You'd almost have to back out. Actually, I did have to back down the entire street because this driveway has a gate, has a chain on
Oh
it.
my
So you
God.
can't back into there. And then this has a truck there, so you can't really use anything to back in, to turn around easily. You'd almost have to do like a 3 or 4 point turn. So, but that's not, as of right now, it's not really in our STR code or anything else to prevent this license from happening, for better or for worse. I don't know, but this is a challenging street. I actually had to put it in 4-wheel drive back all the way down this street just to
Doesn't
get
look
out.
safe, especially if somebody's just visiting from Florida
exactly.
in their Malibu.
That first couple of users are gonna go in and say, I can't get my car out.
Yeah.
It'll go out on the verbose.
Right.
Yeah, some of those will take care of themselves on the
Themselves, right,
reviews,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
Well, I think it's reasonable to keep number 2 based on your
Yeah.
demonstration. Thank you very much, Nate.
Mm.
All right, and we have a couple minutes. Parking alternatives.
Shared parking. Okay, I like it.
I don't know about the 500 feet.
I think I'd get rid of them.
Yeah,
Number 1 goes.
yeah,
What do you, I don't know.
right.
I guess for
So this
ease
is
of
like
access. type
businesses that
thing.
have different times. And
Yeah.
they share parking because we're open in the morning, you're open in the afternoon,
When does that?
which is,
Yeah, okay,
Where
well,
the
duh, that's
headline
nice.
looks at it.
Okay, do it.
Yeah, I don't know
Whatever.
what that,
Well, an example could be what Nate said earlier about a hotel with retail, blah, blah, blah. Maybe once the retail closes, you have more spots for parking for the hotel when people come in late. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie anymore, tell you.
But
More business
um,
for you.
I'm not worried about it.
Should we just take it out?
the whole thing or
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
whole number 1 or?
Parking alternatives? Do we need parking?
The whole nine, and then
alternatives?
25% on the review of the shared parking. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm for.
Yeah,
kinda
let's
dealing with
remove.
A lot of this stuff.
Get
as
rid of it.
Arises and then use some common sense.
Offsite parking, can we get rid of all that?
Oh,
This sounds way too complicated. Bicycle parking. Oh, no way are we going to require people to provide bicycle parking for businesses? No way.
no.
Forget that,
What-
take that out.
Are we taking the whole section or
Yes,
just take it all out?
the whole thing.
You're worried
Parking
about it, Todd?
alternatives, Gone.
Oh, you're okay with that? Okay, we are too. Okay, good.
We
an
agree. There's no
agreement.
devil's
We
advocate.
don't need parking alternatives. Bye-bye.
Bye. J, parking layout and
Parking layout.
design. Okay, do we want to quit here?
Yes.
Let's do it. All right.
Okay.
Start here next time. I know.
Something that you might want to keep in the back of your heads is if we want to potentially put in some electric vehicle charging stations. We would probably need something under, I mean, we're in parking now. We could possibly go electric vehicle charging stations reserved TBD, because we would have to actually go get a grant.
Yeah.
to probably put one in.
Well, let
There's
me
a
just
couple.
say this about those stations. I know that Whole Foods has completely removed all of theirs, at least in Houston. I don't know. I don't see any in Colorado Springs, I don't think. It starts
Not
getting
at Whole
pretty,
Foods, but there are a lot of them there's some parking garages with stations.
it gets expensive. And we can get a grant maybe to put them in, but do we really want to pay for all that electricity for free unless we're charging?
No, I would think we'd have something where you got to stick a credit card in.
Okay.
To charge.
You know what? That's 10 years down the road.
Actually, with some of the governor's stuff going on right now, it's happening now.
In a small town like this, though,
It's happening all over the state. They're going to try to have all electric buses for schools for.
right? No, I get it, but I
Yeah.
think in our little town, I don't know. mean,
I
you
agree
could
with
go to
Lisa.
Woodland and it takes like 30 minutes or something. They could go to a bigger city and I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and then we've got parking spots where people can't park and we already don't have enough parking. I'd like our parking to be as flexible as
Well, I
possible.
mean, I'm sure it's coming, but I don't know that we need to.
Well,
worry
there's
about it.
charging stations. There's charging stations Manitou. There's a charging station, I believe, up in Woodland or a couple. And it may be something to where we just say, like you said, we just don't have enough parking as it is. We don't want to eliminate a couple parking spaces for EVs.
Yeah, I hate it when I go somewhere and
Next
that's the only
mayor
spot and I don't have an
administration
electric car.
deal with that.
There you go.
Then we're selecting for that type of.
Yeah.
Clientele that is brand
yeah,
new Teslas.
There's a lot of big push going on and there's a lot of, yeah, I can tell you at the PPACG level, a lot of us are kind of giving it the really type of response because some of their models, they're by, by 2050, I think they're thinking that 97% of the vehicles on the road, light duty vehicles are supposed to be electric. And I'm like, right. I thought it was 2050.
See the gal that was interviewed the other day is a big green person. They said, where do you think the electricity comes from that you're going to charge those vehicles? She says, well, out of the outlet.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
She said it.
Is she really that stupid?
And then somebody reminded her they were coal. We had to create or put back into business coal-fired plants to do. all the-
Did we officially adjourn?
You know,
Wait, that's not, I
Oh.
want to just action items.
Okay.
I'm going to compile a list of the wildfire resources. I've already mostly done it. And maybe the comments, the bullet points that Chief Murphy made, and I'm gonna send it to you, and then you have to send it to everybody, or can I just send it to her? So I'll send it to everybody. And then you and I, or something, I'll try to help you later this week if you want me to call some people or whatever. I can
I'll
do
send you that list of contacts that I made. And
Okay.
then
You're sending me the town attorney section that does land use
mhm.
so that I can have a little conversation.
And then Todd's gonna summarize. You got two things, summarize just for a town meeting. And then are we gonna add? Right. Right, I put that on there. And then then we need to go ahead and post that we're having a
Yes,
open
the
meeting. What do we
meeting on
call
the
it?
23rd, our next meeting.
So we need to post it for public.
And we will decide, once Todd gets his stuff put together, his summary, And if he does, then we will have this as a first agenda item. And have this public meeting that we're required to have so we can start the clock running on those.
Yeah.
You think they will? I don't either,
I don't
but
know.
let's do it. So we start the clock
So-
running and we say we had the meetings.
But that's a whole nother thing. I mean, we, summer residents, I just know people would be interested. How can we contact them all? I don't know. It's a busy time of year. School's going to be starting and all that. I know people are traveling.
Not our problem.
Well, okay, then put it, yeah. Maybe we could beef up because the town website, maybe we could beef that up a little bit more because it has old announcements and things on it and I don't know.
They're pretty up to date.
Are they pretty up to date now?
Actually, yeah.
Okay. Sometimes seems like I'm looking for, like, when's
They
the
were,
board
yeah, they've been out of date for a while.
trustees meeting? But yeah, I'm always scrambling and then I look to pay, I don't know where to look. Anyway.
We had that info meeting on the
The short term.
Stilling Basin.
Oh, on the stilling basin. Oh, yes.
Saw-
No, I'm not saying,
Yeah.
but sometimes I can't find the board meeting, but I forget what night. I'm getting better about it. But yeah,
I can come out and say, we gave a presentation here, we advertised it here.
yeah. And then we
That's
check
all
the
it
boxes.
needs.
That's fine.
Check the
So
boxes.
let's just do what we need to do, right?
And I just have to say, everybody in this room is a hero and a warrior, and thank you very much.
Are we adjourned?
We're
All right,
adjourned.
9:06.
Standing.